He was driving back to his residence when a sight stopped him cold. Two elderly people, absolutely soaked, huddled against the relentless rain right near his stately gate. His instinct was to keep going, but then he peered into the tattered suitcase they carried and unearthed a profound truth that would forever shift his existence. The downpour slammed against the windshield of his imported vehicle, a powerful rhythm seemingly intent on purifying the world's grime. Marcelo adjusted the rearview mirror and sped down the deserted highway, utterly drained after a grueling 3-day sequence of mandatory meetings in a distant city. At 40-something, he had forged a business juggernaut that many coveted. Yet tonight, it felt like an unseen, crushing burden. His palatial home awaited him in the city's most exclusive district, as still and frigid as always. The automated entry system was already gliding open as the sensor recognized his approaching car. Marcelo eased his speed, anticipating the shelter of his covered garage, when a peculiar detail caught his eye. Two forms were cramped beneath the ancient tree outside his boundary wall, seeking refuge from the battering storm engulfing the metropolis. Frowning deeply, he stopped the car and powered down the window to see more clearly. They were a man and a woman, their hair silvered, their clothes pasted to their skin by the soaking rain. They clung to each other as if they were the sole shield left in the universe. Resting next to them, propped against the trunk, was a worn leather valise, seemingly holding the remnants of a life that had utterly shattered. Marcelo's initial, visceral urge was to hit the gas and flee into the safety of his home. After all, it wasn't his concern that people were stranded outdoors. The city teemed with individuals in dire straits, and he couldn't possibly mend every broken situation. But something about this specific image pierced him. Perhaps it was the way the aged man used his own body to shield the woman, or how she gripped him with a confidence that seemed to defy all the world's hardships. Marcelo remained stationary, engine idling, the wipers frantically working, watching these two souls who appeared utterly forgotten by life. The man must have sensed the bright headlights because he slowly lifted his head and gazed directly at Marcelo. Despite the rain and the distance, a certain unyielding dignity on that time-worn face struck a deep chord in the tycoon's chest. "It's not my affair," he muttered to himself, placing his hand on the gear selector, but his fingers refused to engage. He stayed there for a few more seconds, immobilized between the icy detachment he had carefully cultivated and a strange, unfamiliar emotion he couldn't name. The elderly woman then began to cough, a feeble sound that still managed to reach him through the din of the rain and the car window. Something inside Marcelo finally snapped. He switched off the engine, grabbed the umbrella from the back seat, and stepped out into the tempest. Every stride toward the couple felt weighted, as if he were fighting against years of self-imposed indifference. The man struggled to his feet as he saw Marcelo approaching, instinctively positioning himself in front of the woman. "Good evening," Marcelo called out, raising his voice above the drumming rain. "Are you both all right?" The old man studied him for a moment, as if attempting to gauge whether this well-dressed person represented a threat or a glimmer of hope. "We are, sir, just waiting for the rain to subside." "Waiting where? Here on the street?" "We have nowhere to go," the woman replied in a soft voice, yet laden with a distant, profound sorrow. "We were evicted this morning. We couldn't find any shelter." Marcelo felt his chest tighten. Evicted. The word echoed oddly in his mind, stirring up painful memories he preferred to keep buried. "Evicted from where?" "The home we lived in for decades," the man clarified, striving to keep his voice steady. "Things became financially difficult. We couldn't maintain the payments." "And your family? Children? Relatives?" The resulting silence spoke volumes more than any answer could. The woman lowered her head, and even through the rain, it was clear that other drops were tracing paths down her face. The man pressed his lips together, swallowing bitter words he chose not to utter. "Our children have their own lives," he finally stated. "We don't want to trouble them." Marcelo recognized that response. It was dignity attempting to camouflage rejection. There was something about the couple that unsettled him in a way he couldn't explain. They didn't seem like people who were chronically homeless. There was a bearing, a refinement, a delicate quality to their movements that hinted at a different background. "What are your names?" "I'm Antonio." the man answered, extending a calloused but clean hand. "This is my wife, Esperanza. We've been married for almost 50 years." 50 years. Marcelo could barely fathom sharing a life with anyone for such an expanse of time. His own history with relationships had been a series of letdowns that convinced him of the wisdom of solitude. "Marcelo," he introduced himself, gripping Antonio's hand. "Look, you can't remain in this deluge all night. It's dangerous, and you'll fall ill." "Don't worry about us, sir," Esperanza said, trying to smile even while she visibly shivered. "We've endured worse." That sentence struck Marcelo like a physical blow. We've endured worse. How many struggles had these two faced together? How many storms, both literal and metaphorical, had they weathered hand in hand? "You can stay at my house tonight?" The offer left Marcelo's mouth before he could fully process the gravity of what he was proposing. "Just until the rain stops and you can figure things out." Antonio and Esperanza exchanged looks of sheer astonishment. It was clear they hadn't anticipated such an offer from a total stranger. "Mr. Marcelo, we don't wish to be a nuisance," Antonio insisted. "You don't even know us. You strike me as decent people, and no one deserves to spend the night exposed to this weather." Esperanza had another coughing fit, stronger this time, and that sealed Marcelo's resolve. "Come on, gather your things. My home has plenty of spare rooms." Carefully, Antonio helped Esperanza to her feet and took hold of the leather valise. Marcelo noticed the way he held the bag, as if it contained something more precious than gold. The three walked in silence toward the mansion, each lost in their own thoughts. Valdirene, the housekeeper, nearly dropped her tea tray when Marcelo entered through the main door, accompanied by two sodden senior citizens. She had worked in that house for 15 years and had never seen her employer bring anyone home, let alone people experiencing homelessness. "Valdirene," Marcelo instructed, shedding his wetsuit jacket. "Prepare the guest suite on the second floor for Mr. Antonio and Mrs. Esperanza, and find them some dry clothes that might fit." "Sir," Valdirene whispered, clearly uncomfortable. "Are you certain?" "I am, and make some hot tea. They're freezing." Antonio and Esperanza stood frozen in the grand foyer, dripping water onto the marble floor, palpably overwhelmed by the opulence surrounding them. The house was enormous, appointed with expensive furniture and artwork worth more than many people earn in a lifetime. "Please make yourselves at home," Marcelo said, though the phrase sounded hollow even to him. "How long has it been since anyone truly felt at home here, Mr. Marcelo?" Esperanza said, her voice choked with emotion. "We don't know how to thank you. It's been a long time since anyone treated us with such kindness." The sentence struck Marcelo unexpectedly. It's been a long time since anyone treated them with kindness. How was it possible for two individuals to reach a point where a simple human gesture became a rare, invaluable thing? "No need for thanks. It's the least any person should do." "No, sir, it's not," Antonio countered, shaking his head. "We spent the entire day asking for help, knocking on doors, and you were the very first person who looked at us like human beings." The weight of those words hung in the air. Marcelo realized it had also been a very long time since anyone had looked at him like a human being, rather than a business opportunity or a walking bank account. Valdirene returned with plush towels and dry attire. "The room is prepared, sir," she announced, her tone making it clear she disapproved of the situation. "Thank you, Valdirene. You may withdraw." When the housekeeper had left, silence reclaimed the space. Marcelo watched Antonio carefully assisting Esperanza up the staircase, noting how tenderly he managed her every movement, as if she were made of fragile glass. There was true love in those actions, love tested by time and tribulation. "Rest well," Marcelo said when they reached the second floor. "We'll talk more tomorrow." "Good night, Mr. Marcelo," Esperanza replied. "May God bless you for your kindness." Marcelo stood in the hallway after their door closed, trying to process the shift. In under an hour, his rigid routine had been completely disrupted by two absolute strangers. He should have been feeling regret, anxiety, questioning his impulsive choice, but he wasn't. For the first time in what felt like ages, he sensed he had done something correct. From his own room, he could hear low voices. Antonio and Esperanza seemed to be having an intimate exchange, whispering like teenagers sharing secrets. Marcelo wondered when the last time was that he had someone to talk to like that. Someone who genuinely cared about his fears and aspirations. He returned to his private quarters, but sleep was elusive. He kept thinking about the two seniors, the suitcase they guarded like a treasure, the way they looked at each other after half a century of marriage. There were secrets within that story. There was more beneath the surface of their situation than met the eye, and something deep inside him desperately needed to uncover it. The following morning dawned differently in the house. For the first time in years, Marcelo woke to sounds other than the usual quiet of the empty mansion. Soft murmurs drifted from the floor below, gentle conversation that brought a strange sense of vibrant life surging through the frigid walls. He descended the stairs in his robe and found Antonio and Esperanza seated at the kitchen table, having a breakfast prepared by Valderine. The housekeeper was visibly uneasy, serving the elderly guests with abrupt motions and a tightly set expression. 15 years in this house had taught her that wealthy employers don't mix with ordinary folks. This whole scenario completely violated her known protocol. "Good morning," Marcelo greeted, noticing how much better Esperanza looked after a night's rest. Her eyes held a spark of vitality that the rain and exhaustion had concealed the night before. "Mr. Marcelo," she smiled in a way that brightened the entire kitchen. "We weren't sure if we should come down. Valderine prepared this wonderful breakfast for us." Valderine cleared her throat loudly, making it clear it wasn't by choice. "Sir, I need to speak with you privately when possible." "Later, Valderine. Right now, I want to get to know our guests better." Marcelo took a seat at the table, something he rarely did. He usually drank his coffee quickly, standing up while reading emails on his phone. But there was a comforting quality to this domestic scene that made him slow down. "Antonio," he said, pouring himself coffee, "tell me about yourselves. How did you arrive at this point?" The elderly man exchanged a heavy look with Esperanza before answering. "It's a long narrative, sir. I barely know where to start." "Start at the beginning." Antonio sighed deeply, as if preparing to reopen a still tender wound. "I was a civil engineer. I spent decades constructing schools, hospitals, orphanages, primarily community development projects. I always believed my work could truly make a difference in people's lives." "What kind of projects?" "I built 18 public schools in rural areas, 12 small hospitals in disadvantaged communities, and 6 orphanages that are still operating today." Marcelo nearly choked on his coffee. Antonio wasn't just a typical homeless senior. He was someone who had devoted his life to building things that mattered. "Esperanza was always my partner in this journey," Antonio continued, taking his wife's hand. "She was a music teacher, instructing children from poor backgrounds to play instruments. She formed 3 community choirs that even performed in significant theaters." "Music heals the soul," Esperanza completed softly. "I watched street children transform when they discovered they could create something beautiful." Marcelo was captivated. These 2 people had spent decades helping others, and now they were abandoned here, with no one to help them. The irony was cruel. "What happened then? How did you transition from that life to this?" Antonio finished the sentence with bitterness. "Our only son, Eduardo, was always ashamed of what we did. He called us fools, said we wasted time helping people who didn't deserve it. He wanted me to build commercial towers, shopping centers, things that brought real money. Eduardo became a lawyer," Esperanza said, the pain evident in her voice. "A successful one who married into a wealthy family. They were ashamed of us, ashamed of our social projects, our simple lifestyle. Ashamed." Marcelo couldn't believe it. "Yes," Antonio confirmed. "When Eduardo began moving in higher social circles, he asked us not to tell anyone he was our son. He claimed our image was detrimental to his career." The ensuing silence was heavy as lead. Marcelo felt something churning in his chest, a mixture of anger and sadness he couldn't articulate. "Years passed with little contact," Esperanza continued. "When I discovered I was ill..." "Ill?" Marcelo interrupted, concerned. Esperanza hesitated, exchanging glances with Antonio. "It's a delicate heart condition, Nothing untreatable, but it is expensive, very expensive. We approached Eduardo, Antonio said, not to beg for money, but to say we wanted to be closer to the family in our later years. We wanted to get to know our grandson better. You have a grandson? Rodrigo, a wonderful young man. But Eduardo always invented excuses to prevent us from seeing the boy. He said he didn't want his son to grow up with bad life examples. Marcelo felt his blood boil. How could a child treat their own parents this way? Even so, we kept trying to reconnect, Esperanza said. When we lost our home because we couldn't afford the medical care, we called Eduardo. We thought he would help us temporarily. And he did help. Antonio laughed bitterly. He told us we were adults responsible for our own choices, and if we chose to help strangers our whole lives instead of thinking about our future, we should face the consequences. And he hung up the phone. Esperanza finished, a tear tracing her cheek. Marcelo was incredulous. He hung up on his own parents? That wasn't all, Antonio went on, his voice trembling with suppressed emotion. We heard from neighbors that Eduardo told his acquaintances we were troublemakers who always made poor life decisions. He said he had no responsibility for our choices. Valderine, who had been listening from the corner of the kitchen, looked increasingly distressed. She had never witnessed such a raw, intimate, and painful conversation in this house. Mr. Marcelo, she cut in. May I speak with you privately? Not now, Valderine. But sir, I said not now. Marcelo's sharp tone made Valderine retreat, startled. She rarely heard him raise his voice like that. My apologies, Marcelo addressed the couple. Please, continue. There isn't much left to tell, Antonio said. After the eviction, we tried public shelters, but they're all full. We spent 3 days sleeping outside before we ended up here yesterday. 3 days on the street? Marcelo could barely grasp it. Yes. And you know what hurts the most? Esperanza asked, wiping her eyes. It's not the hunger, it's not the cold. It's knowing that we built homes for hundreds of orphaned children, but our own son cannot find a small space in his house for his own parents. Esperanza's words echoed through the kitchen like a silent scream of agony. Marcelo felt an odd sensation stirring within him. These people had dedicated their entire lives to assisting others, and now they were paying the price for having an ungrateful child. May I see the suitcase you brought? Marcelo asked, driven by a sudden curiosity. Antonio seemed to hesitate. Why do you want to see it? Last night I noticed how carefully you guarded it. It seemed important. The couple exchanged looks again. After a few seconds, Antonio nodded. Esperanza, please fetch it. She rose slowly and returned minutes later with the worn leather valise. She placed it on the kitchen table and opened it with care, as if unveiling a treasure chest. Marcelo leaned in to view the contents and was left speechless. The bag was filled with photographs, letters, newspaper clippings, diplomas, and meticulously organized documents. These were decades of a life devoted to others. These are the children from our orphanages, Esperanza explained, displaying hundreds of photos of smiling kids. Everyone has a story. Everyone found a family. And these are the graduation ceremonies from the schools I built. Antonio gestured to other pictures. Thousands of children who gained an education because of the projects we developed. Marcelo picked up one of the letters. It was written by a child in block letters. Uncle Antonio and Aunt Esperanza, thank you for building our school. Now I can read and write. When I grow up, I will help other children just like you helped us. We received hundreds of letters like this over the years, Esperanza said proudly. Each one cherished and kept. That's why the suitcase is so important, Antonio explained. They are the only proof we have that our life meant something. Marcelo felt a tightness in his chest. These people had impacted thousands of lives, built legacies that would last generations, and now they carried everything in an old bag because they had nothing else. There is one more thing, Esperanza said hesitantly, pulling a yellowed envelope from the bottom of the suitcase. Something you might find interesting. What is it? A thank you letter we received a long time ago from a young man we helped during a difficult time. Marcelo took the envelope and saw his own name written in a child's handwriting. His hands began to tremble as he opened it and recognized the letter he had penned as a boy. "My God," he whispered. "How do you have this?" Antonio and Esperanza smiled for the first time since they started telling their story. "Mr. Marcelo," Esperanza said softly, "fate has mysterious ways of bringing the right people together at the right time." And in that instant, Marcelo understood that the meeting in the rain was no random event. It was the universe returning a kindness that he had long forgotten he once received. Marcelo's hands were shaking, holding the yellowed letter he'd written as a boy. The infantile script leaped from the paper like ghosts of the past. "Uncle Antonio and Aunt Esperanza, thank you for helping me when Mom was sick. You were my angels. One day I'll be rich and I'll help kids just like you helped me. Marcelo Silva, 8 years old." "You remember me?" he asked, his voice rougher than he expected. Esperanza smiled with maternal tenderness. "How could we forget? You were such a brave little man. You took care of your mother with so much love." The memories began to crash back like waves breaking on the shore of Marcelo's awareness. He was 8 years old when his mother became critically ill. Without money for private treatment and with the public system overwhelmed, she was given little hope. That's when Antonio and Esperanza entered their lives. "You built that community hospital," Marcelo murmured, remembering. "Santa Clara Hospital. My mother was one of the first patients." "Your mother, Carmen Silva," Antonio said, smiling. "A warrior woman who fought her sickness bravely, and you stayed at the hospital every single day." Esperanza added, "You brought flowers you picked from the vacant lot near your home. You always said the flowers would heal your mother faster." Marcelo closed his eyes, his chest tightening. He had blocked these memories for so long he'd almost convinced himself they didn't exist. His mother had been cured in the hospital Antonio built, and Esperanza had organized musical performances to cheer the patients during their treatment. "You saved my mother," he said, looking directly into the eyes of the two elders, "and now you are here, abandoned, needing help." "Life takes strange turns," Antonio replied philosophically. "Sometimes we plant seeds without knowing where they will blossom." Valderrain, who had overheard the entire exchange from the kitchen corner, finally approached. Her expression drastically altered. "Mr. Marcelo, may I speak with you now? It's urgent." "What is it, Valderrain?" "There's a man at the gate. He says he's a lawyer, and he's here to collect his parents." Marcelo's blood ran cold. "A lawyer?" "Yes, sir. Eduardo Mendez says these people are his parents, and they are causing a public disturbance to the family." Antonio and Esperanza instantly went pale. Fear was etched on their faces in a way that broke Marcelo's heart.